Caught my dad doing it with housekeeper who's my age, 20F. My younger brother caught him in the act. My mother, depressive, suicidal, attempted a couple of times, dependent, would never leave my father like I'm 100% sure she would never leave him. She would be hurt and try to kill herself and cry and cry and cry, but she would forgive him eventually. He has had multiple affairs and she has always forgiven him after a few hours of crying. That man begged my 14-year-old brother to not tell anyone, and my brother agreed 'cause he saw his dad crying. Why are men like this? 22 years of marriage and 4 kids and he still can't keep it in his pants. I feel disgusted. He doesn't know I know. I am never getting married. I want him to know that I know, and I want him to feel ashamed. He did it with a 20-year-old. Same age as me. I feel disgusted. I can't even get myself to call him names. I want to forget this ever happened. I'm so scared that my mom will find out somehow and try to kill herself again and no one will find out. I don't know what to do. The funniest part is that the person is still working at our house and they are still acting chill and pretending that it never happened. How do I get the person fired without framing the person for something? I have severe anxiety and have been getting a lot of panic attacks. How do I deal with this? Confession 2. My husband's a hoe and women have no respect for marriage anymore. January 2024 was the beginning of a storm I never saw coming. My husband, 21M, the man I had vowed to spend my, 23F, life with, started seeking solace elsewhere. It began innocuously enough. A new co-worker named Sarah, 45F, entered his life. She was his mother's age, and I thought nothing of it at first. But by their second meeting, he confided in her about our private struggles, telling her he was unhappy with the lack of intimacy in our marriage. He texted her on and off for 6 months, a timeline I would only piece together later, and during that time, he used Snapchat to talk to other women as well. Somewhere in that mess, he crossed a line I never imagined he would. He hooked up with his best friend, Kane, and Kane's girlfriend, Sydney. When things didn't go as planned with Sydney, he couldn't get it up, they brought in another woman, Kyra, but the same thing happened. By May, I started noticing changes. My husband was distant, distracted, and irritable. Kane, the friend I had fought to keep in his life for years, started speaking poorly about me over their game chats. I didn't think much of it at the time, but in hindsight, it was another piece of the puzzle. Kane wasn't just a friend, he was someone I had defended for 7 years. His brother was with my sister-in-law. His family and my husband's had turned against him after dark events I won't detail here, but I saw him as a kindred spirit. My husband's family was cruel to me too, and I thought we were all on the same side. I stood up for Kane when no one else would, even when my husband wanted nothing to do with him. July was when the storm finally broke. One night, I came home to find my husband passed out drunk on our bed, covered in vomit. Normally, when he drank, he was affectionate and sweet. But this time, he called me a bitch over and over again, a word he knows I hate. I coaxed him into the shower, and as he stumbled away, something in me snapped. I picked up his phone. What I found shattered me. Sarah was saved under a fake name, Kane, but the messages were unmistakable. He told her he loved her, that he wanted her body, that he wanted to run away with her and her child. He said he wasn't happy with me. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of deceit. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I found out Kane knew about Sarah. The final blow came just before Christmas. That's when I learned about the hookups with Kane, Sydney, and Kyra. The betrayal was staggering, not just from my husband, but from people I thought I could trust. I confronted Sydney, hoping for some semblance of remorse, but she was smug, her apologies hollow. She even tried to compare my pain to her Kane talking to other girls. It wasn't the same, not by a long shot. She had pursued my husband, knowing full well he was married. What's worse is, the very next day, Kane proposed to her. It's crazy to think that someone who obviously has no respect for marriage could boast about it herself. My husband is trying to make up for it, but I hate him for it and I hate the women involved just as much. I've always been shy and have tried my best to be likable because I have a hard time reading social cues and understanding the social norms of society, so I don't actually have any friends or family to fall back on. So, since I have no one else to tell, I decided that Reddit loves this kind of shit and maybe I can get some advice on how to better myself mentally.
Confession 3. I don't know how to take her back. So going through a divorce right now. My wife and I fell apart pretty bad at the end of it. I found out she was talking to a pro baseball player before she filed for divorce. It wasn't like her at all to go out looking for another guy's attention or put herself in that situation. When I found out about the young guy from Mississippi who got drafted as a pitcher, I had to know the truth and every detail about this relationship that was going on behind my back. At first she said they only talked and that was it, but as I kept asking, going practically crazy about it, she said she sent him selfies, but only in a bra. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked and hurt. She always acted like she was MS perfect and never did nothing wrong to no one or anything. I kept on asking for about a month because every time I'd ask the story would change a lot. She said they never met up, but she was always going to the town he was playing minor league for a while, and I mean she was going like 3 times a week. He even had tickets waiting for her and my kids at the gate for a game they went to watch. And she became very distant. She swears nothing happened and she never saw him, but I'm a guy and I know exactly what was happening.
Confession 4. Found out my mom cheated on my dad, advice needed. I am 18F, and I found out my mom, 40F, cheated on my dad, 40M, few months ago. I found texts on her phone, telling a man that she loves him and pretty sure she has had physical relations with him too. My parents and I have really close relationship. Even during my teen years, I used to prefer hanging out with them rather than my friends. I share everything in my life with them and they are my biggest supporters. But they don't have a relationship at all. My father was forced into this marriage and my mother had really high expectations from this marriage. Seeing her parents' marriage, my parents had an arranged marriage. But my father never gave her what she wanted and never took her side during the time my grandma or aunt, father's side of the family, harassed my mom. He always defended them, saying that they wanted best for my mom. My mom is really good person. She has been taking in foster kids and animals, as long as I can remember, and takes care of us, sometimes even at her expense. I love her but she is also an oversharer, and once during her rant, she told me that my father and her haven't had sex since 6 years. My father even forgot her b-day this YR and treats her with respect you give to a stranger, not like his wife. She feels completely isolated from my family and only interacts with them if necessary, but she has never told me to act badly towards them, and when I saw what was happening to her and acted out, she scolded me that she has beef them, not me, so I should respect them. The thing I'm feeling guilty about is not telling my father. But I feel like it's justified from my mother's end too. She wanted a loving husband but is stuck him, an unloving husband. My father is a really conservative and pure man. He rarely shouts and is really patient, but he never takes my mom's side. He is really loving towards me and respects my opinions. He is setting a really high expectations for me too. But he doesn't love my mom and doesn't give her a clean cut from a life him. One of his sisters had cheated on her husband and he cut off any contacts her and isn't even cordial her during family reunions. They had a really close relationship before and her husband was my father's really good childhood friend. He did same another friend of his too. In short, he hates disloyal PPL. I do not plan to tell him about mom's cheating as of now. But I just wanted advice from PPL who have experienced this kind of situations. Please be kind. Edit. I want to clear this up that my father doesn't believe in divorces. He has made that clear several times, in front of me. Few years ago, my parents had separated and even lawyers were called, but nothing happened cause my father didn't want to divorce.
Confession 5. I'm wasting my 20s by doing nothing, but there isn't anything I'm interested in. Hey, I saw someone else post a story like this and I feel similar to how they felt, so I want to share my story. I'm turning 20 soon and I haven't really left my house in a while. I used to be very social when I had a job with all my friends, but I had an insane panic attack at work one day and just never went back. I tried to get other jobs, but it just brings me back to that feeling. I do tasks here and there for money. But I don't have a steady income. My parents are very patient with me and I'm glad they support me, but I wish I could just figure out what is wrong with me and fix it. I've tried many different medications and therapists and therapy methods. Sometimes it works, but I often fall into a cycle of feeling good and then feeling like shit out of nowhere, and it's almost like I have deleted all my mental health progress once the cycle starts. I'm wasting my 20s in this house by myself. I have my family, but I don't really talk to my brothers. I don't really talk to anyone in the house as of recently. Things have just felt shittier. It's because I had a dream the other night. It was a really nice dream and it felt like I was seeing into a timeline where I never had a panic attack. A timeline where things were fixed and I chose different paths. If I could go back to live in that dream, I would. I wish I could live in my dreams forever. It really sucks how you're asleep for 8 hours, but your dream only feels 30 minutes long. And then on top of that, you hardly remember the dream. I just wish dreams were real. I'm tired of relying on my dreams for happiness.